This video is my second in a 4-part video series where I'm talking through the best players in each position in FPL, and it's time to talk about defenders. Alright, before we get into the video itself, I just wanted to say I'm going to structure this video by going through each of the price points. So we're going to talk about premium defenders, those above 5.5 million. We'll talk about defenders at 5.5, 5 million, 4.5 and 4 million. And that should give you a well-rounded view of the best defenders at each price point. And what I'm going to do is compare them both statistically and then also give my opinion as well. I think half of my job is to present you all the stats that you need to know, and the other half is to present you with my actual opinion. So without further ado, we'll start off with the premium defenders. Now these are 6 million plus. Trent, Gabriel, Saliba, Guardiola, Virgil van Dijk and Trippier are the defenders that fall into this price category. Ultimately, I think all of these players are really good. Trent, I think, is interesting. 7 million, I think, is really, really good value for the potential upside that he provides. You know, Trent is a player that can get consistent returns season on season through 3 different means. He's one of those defenders that you can pretty much bank on to get at least 10 attacking returns this season, I would say. Obviously, he only started 25 games last season and still managed 8 attacking returns. Then also got 8 clean sheets. Now, obviously, looking at the clean sheets there, you can see Arsenal are well and away above the other teams in terms of keeping clean sheets. But Liverpool was still pretty good. I mean, Trent kept 8, which meant a total of 16 returns from 25 starts. And across all defenders in the Premier League and FPL, he was the highest for expected returns per 90. He was on 0.36. Gabriel and Saliba, two, Arsenal centre-backs. Gabriel didn't start the beginning of the season for Arsenal. I don't really know what Arteta was doing with his team at that stage. I guess the comparison between Gabriel and Saliba is this. I think they're both nailed on to start, at least at the beginning of the season. But I would say of the two players, I think Saliba is more likely to just play week in, week out in the Premier League. With the likes of Timber, Calafiori joining Arsenal, they could potentially displace Gabriel, but in my mind, I just don't see any way that Saliba doesn't play every game. But then on the flip side, Gabriel is clearly the better attacking asset. I know he only scored 1 more goal than Saliba did last year, but his expected returns per 90 are a hell of a lot higher. And you got Guardiola, who I'd say is the outstanding Man City defender. You've got to think he's got that sort of left-back spot on lock now. 6 attacking returns, 9 clean sheets from 26 starts, 0.2 expected returns per 90. Really, really strong numbers. Van Dijk, I'd say, probably the weaker of the players on this list. I don't think he's a weak option at all, but just doesn't, I think, offer enough from either an attacking perspective or a defensive perspective combined to make him as strong as the other players on this list. And then a player I think is going under the radar a little bit is Kieran Trippier. He only kept 6 clean sheets last season, which is quite substantially lower than some of the players on this list. But he managed 11 attacking returns. So 6 clean sheets, 11 attacking returns. That's 27 returns from 26 starts. So, if you're paying 6 million for, say, a forward that gets 27 attacking returns, well, 27 attacking returns because they're a forward from 26 starts, you'd be pretty happy with that. So for my opinion piece, honestly, I said Van Dijk's probably the weaker of all of the options here, but you could genuinely pick all 6 of these players at 6 million plus in your team, and I think they'll do you just fine. Now, I've got to say, the 5.5 million price category, it's not looking so good. You got Walker, Ruben Diaz, Akanji, Ake, Stones, 5 Man City defenders, in addition to Guardiola. So there's always the question mark as to who is going to play. And you can see by the number of starts they all made. Even Walker missed 8 games last season, right? So, I mean, the stats are all there for you to see. I'm not going to go through them in detail, but in summary, I just don't think you can pick Walker, Diaz, Akanji, Ake and Stones at the start of the season and expect them to play every game because it's just not the case. Pep has so many defenders at his disposal that you cannot predict his team week on week and exactly who will start in defence. I would say of all the defenders, Guardiola is the most nailed, and that's of course reflected in his price. Outside of that, at 5.5 million, you've got Fabian Schär and Pedro Porro. Now, we saw that Trippier is 6 million, who had 11 attacking returns last season. Schär had 7, played substantially more games, I believe. We'll just go back to Trippier. Yeah, Trippier played 26. Schär played 35. So per game, Trippier's returns were, night and day to Fabian Schär's. He still managed 4 goals and 3 assists and 9 clean sheets. So what's that? 7 plus 9, 16 returns from 35 starts. Not too bad. But at 5.5 million, I do think that's really expensive for him. And then you got Pedro Porro of Tottenham. One of definitely the most attacking defenders in the league by far. 35 starts, 3 goals, 8 assists, 7 clean sheets. So 18 returns in 35 starts, basically a return every couple of games. It's pretty decent. But honestly, I think you can pick Porro. I think Porro is a pickable asset in this game. But other than that, the other 6 players on this list, I wouldn't go anywhere near them. Those Man City defenders, you can't bank on any of them starting every game. And you don't want to be picking players in FPL you're not sure are going to start. And then Porro, yes, he's a good option at 5.5 million, but I still think he's quite expensive. Only kept 7 clean sheets last season. I think you can either get an Arsenal defender or maybe someone a bit cheaper instead. I'm really pleased to announce that I have this season become an affiliate of Fantasy Football Hub. I'll start using their stuff in my content as things go on in terms of team builds, etc. So it will start improving my content, but it'll also help improve your FPL game too. They've got basically the best tools in the business when it comes to all the help you will ever need when it comes to building an FPL team. They've got AI team ratings, stats comparison, you name it. Everything you need for FPL is on Fantasy Football Hub. You can sign up to them using my link in the description and you get a 50% discount as well. All right, back to the video. All right, talk about 5 million defenders next. And the way I've done these sort of next price categories is because there are just so many options at this price. I've done a little bit of a personal filter. So there are some 5 million defenders that maybe you like the look of that haven't quite made this list for me. But what I've tried to do is pick the highlights. So you've got Reece James, Cucurella, both of course of Chelsea, Munoz of Crystal Palace, Dalot, Shaw, Romero and Udogie, both of course of Tottenham. And Reece James of course is suspended until the 14th of September, so bit of time missing for him. He managed 5 starts in the Premier League last season. Obviously that's not all that great, only 2 assists, but 0.35 expected returns per 90, which is of the same level as like attacking threat basically as Trent. So he is playing of the level of Trent when he does get on the pitch, but obviously when he does get on the pitch. Cucurella, I think after his Euros win and performance for Spain, I'm pretty sure he's going to be the starting left back for Chelsea. Wasn't all that attacking last season, only managed 3 assists and 4 clean sheets, 0.11, so a bit disappointing from an attacking perspective. Munoz of Crystal Palace was absolutely excellent from an attacking perspective last season. 9 returns from 16 starts if you count the clean sheets and assists. I think he could be a really nice option. Palace have decent fixtures to kick off the season, and I would say he's the best Palace defender. There are some, of course, that are 4.5 million, so, value for money, you might be able to do better and go cheaper, but in terms of money aside, he is by far and away the best and really, really attacking. Dalot and Shaw, both of Man United. Question marks, of course, around Shaw's fitness. Only managed 12 starts last season, 1 assist and 4 clean sheets. It wasn't actually all that dangerous going forward last season. Whereas Dalot played 35 games, 2 goals and 3 assists and 8 clean sheets. I would say Dalot is probably the best Man United defender in the game, and Martinez, for example, is 4.5. I think Dalot, if you can afford it, you get the value from the extra 5.5 million just from his attacking threat. And he really did. I've got a feeling Dalot is going to be a real world-class level fullback over the next few years. I'm grateful to have him at my club, Man United. I think he's going to have a strong season and be a good option. Then you've got Romero and Udogie. Udogie, of course, playing left-back, kind of an inverted fullback role in that Ange Postecoglou system. Managed 5 attacking returns and 5 clean sheets from 28 starts. I'd say that probably makes him a little bit expensive for that level of returns, and it's kind of the same for Romero, who actually managed to score 5 goals last season, both in and around 0.15, 0.18 expected returns per 90. So with that in mind, I genuinely think there are 4 players on this list I would genuinely pick in my team. Munoz of Crystal Palace, if you want to spend 5 million on a Crystal Palace defender, then he's your man, and I genuinely think he's a pickable option. I've sung Dalot's praise. I think he's great at 5 million. And then Romero and Udogie, I'm not massively keen on them, but likewise, I don't think they're bad assets that you should avoid. But I would definitely avoid Luke Shaw. Cucurella, I'm not convinced on Chelsea at the moment. I don't think you can hang your hat on Chelsea defenders. And obviously, Reece James is suspended. a glass man, and I couldn't believe what he did last season, right? Came back from injury, then immediately got sent off. So not only is he injury prone, but he's a bit of a loose cannon when it comes to his discipline as well. So he really needs to sort that out this season. I can't trust him to begin with. What I'd probably say about Reece James is, you know, if he does get back into that Chelsea team, which he probably should after the 14th, right? He needs to string together 5 Premier League starts, I would say, for me to trust him to not get injured. I think 5 starts consecutively is where you're looking for Reece James to trust him to come back in your team. So yeah, that's the 5 million defenders. All right, we've got an even longer list here of 4.5 million defenders. And similar to what I did with the 5 million ones, I've filtered it down again. So there are way more 4.5 million defenders in the game than this. By the way, if there are any that I've not covered in this video, please let me know in the comments. But I really do think I've got the coverage of, well, what in my opinion and statistically are the best ones. Ezri Konsa. Now, last season, numbers-wise, not all that impressive. 1 goal, 1 assist, 7 clean sheets, 35 starts. But Aston Villa are now a Champions League team. I've got a feeling they'll be slightly improved on those 7 clean sheets this season. And Ezri Konsa, I remember watching Unai Emery talking about him. He absolutely, like, the wonders that Emery basically has done at Aston Villa. I think Konsa's going to be a really good option this season. He's going to play every game. I only missed 3 last season. I think he was injured for a bit of time. I think he's a really good option. Lewis Dunk offers probably a bit more goal threat, but Brighton probably a bit looser defensively than Aston Villa. Anderson had a really good start to the season in terms of attacking returns. That kind of petered off, but he did keep 10 clean sheets. So he had 15 returns from his 38 games. Gahey, in comparison to Anderson, they're obviously going to keep a similar level of clean sheets, but he is a little bit less, offers a bit less attacking threat, and it's the same with Richards. Richards offers really probably the lowest amount of attacking threat of all the Palace defenders. Mikalenko, 28 starts, 2 goals, 1 assist, 9 clean sheets. I think per game returns, he's probably the best player on this list. I don't mind him. I just question, could you trust Everton to keep as many clean sheets as that this season? Not 100% sure. Martinez of Man United, they've just signed Lenny Yoro, new centre forward, new CDM, I believe, due to come in Ugarte. I think Man United are going to be greatly improved this season, and Martinez at 4.5 million should be playing for them every week. It's hard to say that he's not injury prone after the season he's just gone through, but if you look at the nature of the injuries that he picked up, they were all kind of like incidental. They were caused by like a bad fall or actually getting injured from a challenge. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he's going to be a good option this season. And those clean sheets, 1 in 8 games, terrible last season, right? I'll admit, but I do think that's going to pick up. Dan Burn, probably my favourite Newcastle defender that isn't Trippier. Although with the amount of signings they've got, signings they've made, fullbacks they've got, etc., can't be 100% sure that Burn is a safe starter. Van de Ven definitely is for Spurs. He's absolutely crazy defensively with his pace. 3 goals last season, 27 starts, 5 clean sheets. I just don't think I trust Spurs enough defensively. And then Rayan Ait-Nouri is probably, he's got some really tough opening fixtures, so it's hard pressed to pick him from the beginning. But fixtures aside, he's probably the best at this price point, purely because he spent times last season playing as a left winger. And, well, a 4.5 million defender in FPL playing as a left winger. I can't believe they still priced him at that, to be honest. I think he could be a really good option. Maybe not to start with the tough Wolves fixtures that are to come. But yeah, certainly to bring in later on. Now, I've got a couple features on 4 million defenders. There's a mixture of players that got minutes in the Premier League last season. You can see here Barco of Brighton, who should be replacing Estupinian as their starting left-back. Estupinian is going to be out for a bit of time at the start of the season. And Barco, I believe, will come in and take his place. And then you got Ben Johnson, who has just been signed by Ipswich from West Ham. So in terms of fullbacks at 4 million, these are the 2. The rest of the players, I'll spoil it, are basically centre-halves and have played in the Championship last season. So Barco and Johnson, I think, are safe starters at fullback. All right, and then we've got the 4 million defenders that played in the Championship last season. You can see all of these guys played in and around 40 games. 46 games, if you didn't know, in a Championship season. So, I mean, you can pretty safely suggest these guys are all nailed on to start for their respective clubs. We've got Wout Faes of Leicester, Harwood Bellis of Southampton, Vestergaard of Leicester, Bednarek of Southampton, and Burgess and Wolfenden of Ipswich. Now, looking at these stats, the number of clean sheets they kept last season, the goals, the assists, etc. that they scored, there's very little in it between all of these teams and all of these players. I mean, honestly, I would probably say my favourite 4 million defender is probably Barco to start with. If he is in that Brighton team playing at fullback, I mean, I think he's the outstanding 4 million defender, right? Closely followed by Ben Johnson, because I think he's going to be nailed on at right back for Ipswich. And then take your pick of these centre-halves, really. There's absolutely nothing to split them. One thing that does worry me about these promoted teams is I think all 3 promoted teams are going to go straight back down. And defensively, I think they're going to be wide open this league and in this current state of the Premier League at least, and ship a lot of goals. So yes, they might have kept that amount of clean sheets in the Championship, which is actually less in 46 games than the top Premier League teams managed to keep in 38. Might say something about the style of football or maybe the quality of the defences. Certainly Leicester, they got relegated a couple of seasons ago for their poor defence, and their defence hasn't improved since then. So I think they're going to ship a lot of goals. Southampton, you've got Bednarek, who, no offence to the guy, but he's getting on a little bit. Burgess and Wolfenden at Ipswich are decent Championship defenders. Obviously, we all know how well coached Ipswich are under Kieran McKenna, right? But I just think all of these teams are going to ship a lot of goals. So for that reason, I'd probably go to Barco for my choice as a 4 million defender. Okay, and that's the end of the video. A bit of a barrage there of defenders and stats, etc. I know I've started with goalkeepers and defenders, right? They're not the most exciting position, but ultimately you need to pick them in your team. So knowing the best players at each price point in those positions, I think is really, really important. So I hope with the last couple of videos, I've really helped you out. You can check out my goalkeepers video if you want to by clicking on the Goal and Goal channel below. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you thought of my opinions and stuff there, any defenders, etc. at these price points that I missed out. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating. You can subscribe to the Goal and Goal channel, which should be just there on your screen. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in my next video.